Imagine an army locked in battle, fighting their own soldiers amidst chaos and clashing weapons. Unbelievable, right? But history holds such tales. Or consider the person who discovered a land, but ignored its potential, only for it to become a trillion-dollar economy. And what about the opportunity to buy a company for just $1 million? Now valued at a staggering $365 billion? These mind-bending stories remind us of the unpredictable nature of life, and the astonishing consequences of our choices. Get ready for an intriguing journey through history's most astonishing mistakes. Russia sells Alaska to the US. In the 1860s, Alaska was a part of Russia. However, when the Crimean War broke out, Russia found it was unable to defend this region against the combined powers of Britain, France, and Turkey. Back then, the importance of oil hadn't been established, and the prospect of gold mining in Alaska too looked slim. With the possibility of Britain taking hold of Alaska and blocking Russia altogether seeming all too real, Russia decided to sell it off to America in the hopes that this would upset Britain's plans. Russia sold off Alaska to the US at a mere 2 cents an acre. However, this turned out to be one of the greatest mistakes in Soviet history. In just 50 years, the USA was able to earn from Alaska more than 100 times what they had invested in its purchase. NASA loses the Mars Climate Orbiter. NASA lost its Mars Climate Orbiter worth $125 million in one of its biggest design and development blunders. In 1999, engineers from Lockheed Martin used the imperial system of measurement in designing one part of the orbiter module, while the rest of the team from NASA used the standard metric system. Because two different measurement systems were used, the spacecraft's navigation system could not receive the correct coordinates, and as a result, it plunged into orbital insertion, and was lost forever. Leaning Tower of Pisa. The foundation for the Leaning Tower of Pisa was laid down in the year 1173, but due to wars and other political reasons, the construction took 199 years to be completed. Its iconic lean, however, wasn't what its builders had originally desired. The tower began leaning early on during its construction, because it was erected on soft soil, and so, the foundation began giving way under its weight. Since then, many efforts have been made to stabilize the tower, and prevent a collapse, and at the same time maintain the lean which has made it popular. The Dutch discover Australia, but ignore it. Almost 100 years before British explorer Captain James Cook landed on its eastern coast, the Dutch had already discovered Australia, but ignored it, thinking it was nothing more than a useless desert land. It is believed that back in 1606, the Dutch vessel Dufken, captained by Willem Jansz, explored nearly 200 miles of the western side of Cape York. Upon their first landing, they had to face attacks from the native aboriginals, which dissuaded them from exploring the land any further. Alexander, not naming an heir. Alexander the Great was the king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedon. He sat on the throne at the age of 20, and by the time he was 30, he had established one of the largest empires of ancient times, which extended from Greece to Egypt, and far into northwest India. However, Alexander died in 324 BC, at the young age of 32. Due to the consumption of wine made from a poisonous plant. His death was sudden and unexpected. And he didn't even have a legitimate heir at the time. There were claims that Alexander had named his bodyguard Perdiccas as his heir, by passing his signet ring to him. But Perdiccas didn't assume power, suggesting that Alexander's unborn baby, if born a boy, should be the king. This arrangement was however not agreed to upon by the supporters of Alexander's half-brother Philipparidaeus. When Alexander IV was born, he and Philip III were named joint kings. But the dissension between the supporters of each persisted. Later, when Perdiccas was assassinated, the Macedonian unity collapsed, ultimately disintegrating the great empire. Austrian army attacks itself. In the Battle of Karansbs, 1797–1791, About 100,000 Austrian troops camped at the village of Karansps. They sent some scouts ahead to observe the advance of the Turks' enemy. However, instead of finding the enemy, the scouts bumped into a few gypsies, from whom they bought alcohol. The scouts brought the alcohol back to the base camp, and started drinking. As they got more and more drunk, their small party started becoming louder. This attracted the attention of some of the other soldiers in the camp, who wanted to join in. However, the scouts didn't want to share their alcohol, and soon a fight broke out over it. In the midst of the drunken mayhem, someone shouted that the Turks had arrived. Some of the soldiers fled, while others assembled and started fighting, killing every man in sight. When the dust finally settled on this madness, it was found that the Turks hadn't actually attacked, and the drunk Austrian soldiers had slain around 10,000 of their own brothers in arms. Not buying Google for $1 million. Google founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin approached Excite CEO George Bell in 1999, saying they were looking to sell the search engine for around $1 million. With Bell not keen on the initial offering, the pair went down to $750,000 in a bid to tempt him. He still rejected. Today, Google is valued at around $365 billion. Oops. Throwing away that Bitcoin portfolio. James Howells bought 7,500 Bitcoins in 2009, when their value was next to nothing. By 2013, one Bitcoin was worth £613. Giving the Welshman a portfolio worth £4.5 million. The only trouble? He'd left his hard drive tucked away, in a drawer for years, and then thrown it away without a minute's thought. After realizing his mistake, he made a hopeful trip to his local landfill site, where he was told the hard drive could be at any spot under around 5 feet of rubbish.